a factual determination as to what's occurred. You know, we had a wonderful example of Soapy Smith here, who rose to fame as a con artist because he, by sleight of hand, you know, was able to dupe people. Now, we can look at that as being the truth, but is that the truth of who and what Soapy Smith is about and, you know, where he ranks in the world? Is that the truth? And I mean, some psychologists might look at it, or a psychiatrist, and want to say that his motivation stemmed from something that happened in his youth or whatever, and hence he's blameless. And so his truth is because of something that occurred to Soapy earlier on in life, he started and began this way or this method. And someone else may look at it and look at another idea of what Soapy was about. And that's their truth. You know, so what is the truth of any situation or any event? One of the things that's come to mind to me that we do a great deal about is in the National Academy we've been taught a little thing is if we're in a situation and we can't figure out what to do, is we've got 4 little rules to apply. You know, all we got to do is follow these 4 little rules and everything becomes okay. And so we ask the questions, is it good for me? Is it good for another person? Does it hurt anybody? And is it the truth? And they all seem very simple to follow. And so as I was thinking about that, the first thing that bothers me about that is those are just little rules when you truly get in a position that you don't know. And people want to walk around applying these 4 little rules to everything that they do and disregard everything else. First of all, is we all come to this planet and for some reason or another we have this conscience. And however we want to describe it, believe it or not, most everything that we encounter during the day, we know whether it's right or wrong. We don't have to go, let's see, let me do my checklist and see whether this is right or wrong. We have an innate, intuitive, whatever you want to call it, there's something that will react positively or negatively with regard to a situation, and we know the inherent rightness or wrongness of it. So we don't need, I think what happens to most of us is when we look at something and know we shouldn't do it, we want to look at our 4 rules and see if we can get by with it somehow, that it'll all work out. And we can rationalize those 4 rules real easy. And one of the things that bothered me right away is, you know, first of all, is if you really want an answer to the problem or whatever you're going through in life, what you need to do is sit down in prayerful meditation. That's what you need to do. You need to turn it over to your inner self and allow the truth to be revealed. And a lot of times we start to do that and we don't like the answer that we get back. And so we find ourselves in a quandary because we like the other answer. You know, and we want to figure out how to get to the other answer. But the truth of it is, if we would follow, you know, that inner guide, we'd be a lot better off. And I know we have these 4 rules, but again, that's when we're totally confused and really don't know what to do. But here's some problems I have with the 4 rules, and for us all to think about, and I don't know why I didn't think about it before, is let's start out with the first one. Is it good for me? Well, I don't know. We can pick anything. I don't know. It's good for me to have $1 million. How does that go on in your brain? Now, I need 2 million, so $1 million's not good. I need no. But at any rate, if you had the choice and it was just blatantly given to you, is it good for you or not? And you'd be hard-pressed to answer no, wouldn't you? I mean, you'd want to say yes to that. And yet, if you knew that having that $1 million was going to bring some of the worst types of humanity to your front doorstep to help you in your pursuit of what to do with that $1 million, would you still want it? You know, and if that $1 million was the cause of a loss of a loved one in your life, would you still want that $1 million? So it's just not quite so easy to say, oh yes. And and what comes back to my brain every time is that little story that Francesca told about, the guy that, I don't know, the farmer or whatever that had the horse, and there was this wrong, and they say, oh, what a wonderful thing that you've got the horse, and the farmer says, oh, we'll see. And then the next day his son's on the horse and is thrown by the horse and has a broken leg or something, and they say, oh, what a terrible thing that's happened in your life. And he's saying, we'll see. And then, the next day the story is that the troops come and want to take all the young men off to war, but his son stays behind because he's got a broken leg and they can't take him. So was the broken leg good or bad? It's all arguable. See, the problem is that, and was the horse good or bad? At first he was good, and then he was bad because he broke the kid's leg, and now he's good again. It's all relative. So that first problem is it good for me? Take some meditation to think about it. Regardless of at its first appearance at your doorstep of how good it might seem. Because you really have to be able to see past whatever the item is in order to understand its worth. And what the farmer story tells us is that this is an individual that had learned not to judge those things, had learned not to jump off the cliff, so to speak, right away when something appeared in his life and to dub it good or bad. He had learned the scripture lesson of judge not lest ye be judged. Because when you judge something, you are judging it in your life. You're not judging it in anyone else's life. That is the problem. It has nothing to do with anyone else. It has everything to do with you. So even the first one, the very first question where very quickly we can say yes, and most of the time that we say yes to that question, is it good for me, is because it's something we want, something we desire. Not something that necessarily we need or something that necessarily we love. It's just something we want. And if I can get what I want, that's a good thing. So it requires us to be able to get past the desire motive to look at things clearly. The second question has to do, is it good for another person? Well, that's great. Then I get to sit in judgment of what's good for you. And in doing that, I better be very, very, very clear as to what I'm doing. I get to decide what's good in your life. Not that it would have anything to do with the first question of whether it's good for me or not, but it might. Maybe when I look at you and I deem what's good in your life, maybe somehow it advantageously inures to my benefit. And maybe that's why I make the judgment, this is a good thing for you. So we find that even when we have nice little rules that seem to have a very simple answer to them, and in many situations they do, is that we need to have clarity when we're looking at whatever is presented. We get on to the third rule, and does it hurt anyone? I don't know, $1 million is good for me, but if the way the system's geared, that there's only $100,000 left out there for every person every year, then I got 9 people's income. And 9 people are going to starve because I got my $1 million. So something's off somewhere with my process, and I'm just using money as an example. There's many other examples that can be used.